Welcome to my review of Wolcen, Lords of Mayhem. A long and somewhat rambly review about a new action RPG from an independent studio that is definitely, well, almost as polished as a AAA action RPG. We'll get into that in a little while. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen here it says offline mode. It says offline mode because, like Blizzard when they launched Diablo 3, I think Wolcen, once the devs are a bit of a victim of their own success. Yes, the online mode is currently down, has been down for about a day or so. Basically, the number of people connecting, I probably broke their database. Anyway, aside from that, let me tell you quickly at the start of the video, unlike many other people, I'm going to tell you exactly what it's like at the start and then we'll go into more detail later. If you like action RPGs, you're probably going to like Wolcen, especially if you like something with a bit more difficulty like Dark Souls. Not that it is Dark Souls-like in any way, aside from the difficulty of some of the bosses. It is very much not a walk in the park as far as that's concerned. But why don't we get into the game, and I'm going to be in the Champions of Stormfall mode. We'll come into that in a second, and I'll show you some of the action. There are two modes you can actually play the game in. Story, which lasts around 12 hours, or at least it did for me. And you can play that on story mode or normal. Maybe there'll be more challenging difficulty modes in the future, I don't know. But normal is a fairly good challenge, particularly in Act 1 before all your abilities start getting uber powerful. And they do get quite uber powerful as we get on further into the game. Once you finish the story, and I'm trying to keep spoilers away from this, but once you finish the story, you're going to become sort of the regent of a city, the Stormfall itself. And let's get into the game and I can show you some of that. So my character is currently level 40 after completing the story campaign. It was around 39 when I finished, and you can see a whole bunch of things on screen which may be familiar to you if you're playing action RPGs. So we can have a quick walk around. This is the sort of city that you will get to in the game. There's not really any spoilers here, but there may be later in the review. So just a warning: I will try and keep them. Very, very mild. You are one of three children of an overarching character that is sort of, well, let's just say, seems heavily inspired by Thanos. Not purple, but definitely has father-daughter issues, let's put it that way. Okay? And that's the whole campaign. They are part of this authoritarian organization that is purging demons from the world. And you start there and you start working through campaigns. The campaign is 3 acts, as I said, around 12 hours or so, and it's quite enjoyable. If some slightly dodgy voice acting at times, a little bit disjointed, and a few UI issues which you may even see in this video, in that when quest rewards come up, they block the screen, but they don't stop the action from going on behind them. I think that probably should be fixed by the developers more than anything else, in that you're trying to choose between multiple items on screen and everything may still be attacking you behind the scenes, because the completion of a quest doesn't necessarily coincide with the killing of all characters. So let's get started with some of the action, and then from here you'll see I'm about to hit level 41. I'll describe a bit more of the game systems in detail. Once you get through the story mode, you're going to get to this. This is the replayable mode, the Champions of Stormfall. And if I look in this menu screen you get with N, this is the replayability section, whereby you, this is going to seem a little odd, but basically you can choose particular projects, like this one. In fact, I have roadworks selected right now. And this enables various things. Productivity bonus. Productivity is sort of how you unlock more and more things in this reusable mode. We'll come back up to that once I've shown you some of the action. But basically you'll be using this screen to select repeatable adventures. And then you can choose 2 types. One is mandates, which is very simple one, and then expeditions, which is more of a not infinite dungeon, but well, it may not be infinite dungeon. I've not gone much past the first level, but yeah, expeditions, which is more of a you fight your way through. You decide whether to go to the next level down, which gets harder and harder and harder, and then you can actually roll the expeditions to be. You see these area modifiers. You can basically add modifiers so that. Well, it becomes harder, but far more rewarding. Let me just sell up, and then we'll head into one of the dungeons. So, as an example, we're going to head into an expedition. Let's start this. It's currently on Adept with the next difficulty unlocked, it seems. I can't really change anything there, but I can actually roll area modifiers. So in this area, I'm going to basically say, ooh, what is it that you want? Willpower regeneration, I don't want that because it's transferred into rage in my case. We're going to come on to what that is in a second. Let's just say, yeah, I'm just going to pay for a modifier, give them move speed. I don't care because they're all going to be coming to me. That's perfectly fine with me. Stasis chance on hit, no, I don't want that. Stamina regeneration reduction, yeah, I don't care about that either. And 25% maximum health, I'm perfectly fine with that. And let's just accept it. Okay, so here we have something we've rolled that's custom. And let's head in to the Caves of the Sleeper. So in my case, my particular build is melee based with this huge, massive spinning axe that flies around me that obliterates anything that gets within range. You can see my abilities are down here. You generally have 4 and then plus a left click and a right click. The left click is sort of restricted to just your basic attack. So really you have 5 and a 6th one that can be unlocked using your replayable area at the end of the game. So we're just going to head in here. You can see I need to hunt down enemies for this. And if I roll this terribly, because my build is a bit of a glass cannon, I may end up dying pretty easily. However, I should be able to do plenty of damage and, of course, get leveled up in my particular case. And the problem with this, well, not problem, but the limitation with this particular sort of type of game is you can't get back to town until you've basically finished the area. And then you can choose to go back to town or head to the next level down. So these yellow items you're seeing are sort of worth picking up. The sort of items go in the usual kind of action RPG thing. They start off grey, they go blue, then yellow, then orange or reddish, and then purple for unique. Reddish is sort of the legendary, if you like. That's not yep, let's pick up more stuff. And let's get rid of you and take a look at my gear. Oops, that's my character screen. This is my gear. So you see everything is yellow apart from a couple of pieces which are this sort of red legendary tier, and I have one basic accessory which is unique, and you only start to get these at the very end of the game once you finish the story. You can occasionally get the legendary ones during the story, usually as quest rewards, but that's basically typical for your usual action RPGs. So on to attributes then. We have 4 of them, and depending on which classes you go, you can basically make your own class up. There is no melee versus spell versus bow characters. You can use any of them if you like, but your abilities themselves are going to depend on the type of weapon. So if you have a look down here, you'll see this one is Tracker's Reach. It basically is only usable with melee weapons, as it says there, so you're limited if you use that ability. So you're going to want to choose abilities that are synergistic with your particular chosen weapon. In my case, it's a big giant hammer. So I'm going to want melee weapons, and melee weapons sort of synergize with ferocity in my particular case. So the highest attribute that you've got determines all of your damage. You can see bonus damage from ferocity here, and you see you get bonus damage from the others, but by far and away, in my case, it's for ferocity. So I'm going to just keep on pushing ferocity. Again, full glass cannon. You can reset these if you want to for 20,000, which is not that much gold for me now, but obviously it's a lot when you first start it. It scales up by your level, and we're on level 41. Now, speaking of the actual skills again, let's just look at the skills themselves by pressing S. This is what looks like a complicated screen, but really isn't. This is my Bleeding Edge skill. It is the thing that spawns the giant spinning axe, and it has these skill modifiers. As you level up in the game with your character level and you get attributes, you're also leveling up your skills. And you can just keep adding all the skills. You can see there's loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of skills. You can basically pick them up off the ground, they're items, and right-click them, and they come into your skill inventory here. As you level them up, however, you can select these. These modify your actual skill to do different things. You'll see in my particular case, this Wicked Swing increases the area of effect. If I turn it off for a second, and you'll see, now it's a little bit smaller. Okay, if we turn it back on, increase area of effect. It's bigger. I much prefer the bigger version. Okay, and then you only have a certain number of modifier points you can put in here, but you can assign to wherever you like. In this case, if I just remove that for a second, you'll see I can put them in other things. So it increases damage. Axe now follows you as you move around. Projectile speed. There's another one up here that's quite good that lets you cast it to a remote location. So if I select this, I can click it over here, and it goes wherever I want, and it continues to spin. That continues to spin for this particular ability is here, and it is here, and it is by far and away the best upgrade to this particular skill. Without that, if I just do this, it just does that, which is good, and that's all you'll have if you choose this particular skill in Act 1, which is why Act 1's a bit hard. You need that sort of ability here, modify here, unstoppable momentum, before things start to really take off. And that does take until after Act 1. So Act 1 is your most difficult, as far as Act 1 boss is your most difficult, so at least for this build. Now this is the skill tree. Don't panic. This, if you've played Path of Exile, you'll be used to a skill tree this big. If you haven't, welcome to Wolcen. So the unique part of this skill tree is that each of these 3 rings can be rotated, and as such you can build anything you like in the center ring and it connects the next ring out, but you can rotate them and entirely build your own tree here. I'm using a particular build that another YouTuber actually put online, just so I didn't have to think about it while I was actually going through the game and get through it fairly quickly so I can get this review out. I'll probably be having to play around and see if I can create some more builds myself, but just in case, let me just get the name of the YouTuber, then you can all go and look at his build. And his name is JKP, so just look that up on YouTube, JKP Wolcen, and then you'll probably see his particular build. But the whole thing is basically based on a few important nodes in this tree. It has this one, which basically has higher crit chance. This is all crit based, this build. Crit damage over here, giant node. This one is a notable, like a Path of Exile notable node. 75% attack speed for 3 seconds on critical hits, so as soon as you do a crit, you get attack speed. Also, we passively generate rage instead of willpower. This is a really important part of the build. Normally, you see this rage gauge down at the bottom right of the screen. There's rage and willpower, and they're used by your abilities. However, you have 2 potion slots. In my case, a health potion and a rage potion. Now, before you get that one node over on the right-hand side of the tree, your rage doesn't build up like this. It goes down, and you have to build it up by using abilities. Again, that is what you'll get in Act 1. So you have to hit things left mouse button, and then it'll build up rage, and then you're able to use the right mouse button to unleash it. But once you get this node, everything changes, and your rage builds up slowly, and you can use rage potions to build it up even faster. So I've just got another point now, so I'm just going to go here and head off into this area. Okay, so we have the rest of this dungeon, so let's carry on and let's see how we actually get on in the game. As you can see, the spinning axe is pretty good. Liking it already, so well done to that YouTuber for suggesting that build. And the story mode, again, doesn't really have much of a problem for this build, except for Act 1. Now, I should mention about Act 1 and why. Basically, the boss is a 3-phase fight, and it is, or at least for a glass cannon build, incredibly hard. So I'd be tempted that if you are going to play this game, and I do suggest you play it if you like action RPGs, it is actually quite good, that you have some kind of either tanky build or maybe a highly mobile build for Act 1. It is a, I'm not going to spoil it by saying who it is, but it is, let's just say someone you know, and they are very, very hard to dodge or everything, and it's quite a sustained fight. That's what I mentioned about Dark Souls, in that this game, although right now it looks like, oh, there and I go, I'm dead. That's one mechanic to mention. You get 3 chances before, whoop, 3 chances before it basically sends you back to town. Or indeed, you send it back to town in story mode. Yeah, so Dark Souls-like. It basically is hard enough in the boss battles if you don't have a good enough build. Once I got this axe spinning, it ceased to become a problem for me completely. But I can understand how people may have some issues with the boss battles until they get to that point. There we go. We get some more sort of yellow items, and we're going to continue through the level. And I'll bring you back once we're close to the end. So I've now finished hunting down the enemies, and I get told to challenge the boss, typical for most of these replayable sort of things, including Path of Exile, which I like very much, of course. And there's a new League of that coming out in about a month or so, I would have thought. And let's just get this down, hopefully. And you can see how quickly you can kill the boss, depending on your build, of course. And then, of course, we get this choice. We get to go back to town, or we get to go to the next level, which is presumably harder. If you die, you'll not receive a reward. Well, okay, let's go back to town. Let's see what the reward's like. It tempts you both ways, basically. Go back to your expeditions map, click on it, and you get this. You get some rewards, and you get productivity. This is the productivity that gets applied to that map screen I was showing you. So as you get more and more productivity, you can see 19 of it went into roadworks. And if we look at roadworks basically increases productivity permanently. So these buffs basically apply to all the area, and you expand across here, unlocking different things. Now, this map screen lets you get further things that you don't have access to already. So let me show you some examples. In your personal stash, you'll see a couple of tabs here. You expand those with gold to get started, but the third one, you basically have to unlock via doing this mode. So you get more stash tabs that way. We have a few merchants around in the starting town. We have Mojave, which is just for selling stuff too. You don't have to do anything else. Over here, we have the usual dual crafting sort of thing. So you can re-roll sockets. You can remove stuff from sockets. Yes, it is like Diablo 3. I know. Before someone says in the comments, I know. But some of the mechanics are very, very different to Diablo 3. And then here is the Archivist. Now, the Archivist is quite different. It lets you level up skills by spending this currency, the 521 currency right here on this side. That currency is gained by getting duplicate skills. So you see right here, I have Tracker's Reach. This is an item that came off the ground, but I already have Tracker's Reach. So if I right-click on it, you'll see, and it says value 100. I get 100 of this currency. And the same things here. Do I have Arctic Spear already? No, I don't. So that is another thing that gets put into my skills inventory. And we get dyes as well. So if you want to transmog, yes, there's a whole transmog area that you can make your character look like however you like. So that's quite nice. And dye stuff as well. Typical kind of action RPG stuff. And then you get the rest of this character. So the rest of this character, it lets you purchase the skills if you don't already have them. They are for 2,000 gold each. And of course, you can put them into your inventory and use them basically to get the skills. You may find that is that's the easiest way to get the skills that you particularly want at the start of the game, because everything is random dropped. This is not the kind of game that drops you just for your class, because you don't have a class. You aren't limited to being just melee. You can just you can change that to whatever you like, whenever you like. So yeah, that it can't really it doesn't really have a filter to say only give me stuff that's appropriate for melee characters. So that is one downside to the game as well, in that you end up with a lot of loot that is not for your particular kind of character. There's not much else you can do about that. The third part of the Archivist is to level up your existing skills. So if I want, let's say, my big axe skill, there it is, 44. If I spend 531, I can level it up once. And there it goes, it's leveled up. And that means I can go into here and, I have another unassigned modifier point, which I can put down here to increase the critical damage even further. Which is good. I'm perfectly happy with that choice. Okay, and this area is pretty much complete. That's everything you get in this area. In fact, is there any guy down here? I don't think there is. This may be for a future DLC. So then, my thoughts on the story mode. The story mode is pretty good. As I've said, it is solid action RPG. The voice acting is a little bit off sometimes, but not very often. It's fairly enjoyable. And the story mode is left open to what I think is going to be pretty much DLC. It's a little nonsensical at the end, in that how it jumps from the story mode to this mode. There's like this really odd change. I'm not going to go into it further, other than to say, yeah, you probably will think that as well. So that's pretty much the game and pretty much my review of it. I don't think there's much else to actually cover. There are far more in detail stuff that you'll probably find more guides about on YouTube. This is just a review of the overall game. I will continue playing in story mode. Oh, there is one more thing. There's the sort of ascended mode. You are sort of an enhanced human. You've been modified somehow, and you have this ability to go into an ascended form. You can do it by pressing R, but if you press F, you'll be able to configure this. I've only got in fact, do I have them all unlocked? I do, it looks like. So this is a mode that when this gauge fills by killing stuff or picking up certain items from the ground, your primordial essence will get hit full, and then you press R and you'll transform into a giant, in fact, can I actually do that? Yeah, let me just go and fill this gauge up and I'll show you what I mean. I mean a giant character that stomps around. Unfortunately, my current abilities are far more damaging than that stompy character. So let me get to that and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, one of the things to show you are the shrines. This is the Shrine of Greed. I clicked on that center item, and you'll see all these chests. When I click on the chest, it's going to spawn lots of mobs, but you get more than one chest. So each one tells you to defeat all enemies, and I can keep on. Well, hopefully I can survive. Okay, and I'm just going to keep clicking on them, and everything is happening on screen at once. But if you defeat them all, you do get lots of items. So let me keep on trying that. Is there another chest to go? There may be another chest to go. There we go. That might be the boss of the... Is that the boss of the area? No, just these. So let's get those 3, and let's just see what else. This is all modifiers, so these are gems. You can slot them into gear, much like Path of Exile, more like Diablo. They basically will modify a gear. I should mention that system as well, just while I'm at it. These slots have a particular type. So let's just look here. See, this has Offensive 2, Offensive 1, Offensive 1. Every gem that you pick up has a different effect depending on which slot you put it in. So if we look at Offensive 2, a one-handed mace, do I have anything more appropriate? Two-handed, yeah, there we go. So Offensive 2. This thing, if I look over here, Offensive 2, this adds 12 to 12 rend damage. This one adds 12 to 12 sacred damage. This one adds 12 to 12 frost damage. But you can see all those other effects depending on which type of slot you get, and you can re-roll slots in town at that jewel crafter, so you can get something that you particularly like. Anyway, on to the boss of this area. I'm going to... Oh, in fact, I have filled up this gauge. So why don't we just head over to this group of semi-tough enemies. You can see them like skulls on the map. And let's see if I can go into the Ascended mode. So now... Okay, you see what I mean about giant characters? However, if I use up this ability... well, they're dead now. I guess I'm going to have to go find something else. If I use up this ability, and you'll see just how more effective my actual skills are in my particular build. This may vary. But if... in fact, he's dead, so I'm going to have to go and find something else, ideally with a skull on it, but trust me when I say... They're nowhere near as damaged. Ah, there's one. Let's go and find you. Make sure my rage is full. And... wait for them to come back. There we go, it's dead. So if you saw that skull, not the skull, the shield over its head, you can sort of break their ability to do anything. You put them into a sort of stunned mode. And my particular skills are good enough at doing that, it's very good when you do that, even with bosses. So you can drop them into this mode where that red shield happens, and that gives you a period of time where basically you can do what you like to them. You can damage them as much as you want to. It then goes yellow, and then, of course, the mob's going to come back. So, yeah, you've got to be a bit careful with it, but that's that particular mode. So the Ascending mode is quite a nice enhancement, and if you had a low DPS build, it will be hugely helpful. But for the moment, that may need a bit of balancing to become a lot more damaging than it is, at least for me. And lastly, my list of problems with the game. Online mode is currently dead. Okay, it's dead, the servers, they're dead. They are restoring it. When it does work, and I did manage to get a few hours in of actually playing, it's fine. It's your typical kind of co-op mode. You can go into public games, or indeed private games with friends, and it works as far as that's concerned. There are some lag issues. I'm sure they'll get those sorted. So this review is mainly based, or in fact, all based on the offline game. So aside from the network issues and stuff like that, the game itself is solid. Some UI issues, as I said, with blocking your character when you're trying to do stuff by giving you rewards. Other problems, I would say slightly the balance is off with that first Act 1 boss. I think that should be a little bit easier, and it should ramp up later in the game, because later in the game your abilities start to get stratospherically more powerful, and the bosses do not keep up with that. I'm obliterating bosses, but that's maybe something to do with this build more than anything else. So yeah, do take that one with a pinch of salt. Otherwise, let's just cover the settings briefly, because we're going to want to change a few from the default. One, this is an auto dash down here. As you're actually moving around with the left mouse button, you may have seen my character jump towards enemies and start to do that. That's the auto dash as far as I know, and I would just leave it on. It's very, very good. Other things that are unique about this game, apart from that, you also get the ability to use stamina. Now, I can use stamina a couple of ways. Your abilities may get the ability to use these stamina points. For example, if I press my 4 skill, I can use stamina for it, or indeed I could have used my other sort of rage for it if I hadn't got stamina selected. But stamina, for the most part, is used with space to dodge roll. Yes, like Dark Souls, you may find yourself dodge rolling around until you run out of stamina, at which point it says not enough stamina and you probably die if you are, depending on the dodge roll for anything else. With that in mind, that's pretty much it, I think, for there. Mainly just the online mode. That's why it's getting mixed reviews in Steam. If you're looking at it on Steam, it's all to do with that online mode and people not being happy. If you remember Diablo 3 launch in era 37, was it? Yeah, I'm willing to give them a bit of a break because I can play the whole thing through and offline. Because that's prone to cheating, that you can't move an offline character to online, so do bear that in mind if you are buying the game. You have 2 separate sets of characters, but they took the feedback from people when Diablo 3 launched, with everyone saying, why do I have to be online? And they complained heavily about that. So there is an offline mode if you just want to play it single player, and it's fine at doing that. Hope you've enjoyed this rambly review of Wolcen, and may your loot be forever great, as far as that's concerned. Yeah, get yourself some more uniques. For the time being, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time for another video.